5 ATS receivers here, ranging from the ATS 20, the original one here that started it all, to the most recent one I've purchased, the ATS 80. But I'm going to give you 5 reasons not to buy these ATS radios. You may think I'm being unfair, or you may think there are more than 5 reasons not to buy them. But here are my 5 reasons. And I'll start off the first and most obvious ones. What did I call them? ATS radios. But that's a model number. I mean, here we have the ATS 20. And then we have the 80, which isn't actually marked on the front. And it's not marked with a model number on the rear. The ATS 25 here, the most modern one, I guess. There are various variants of this. There's the ATS 25 Max, the decoder. Basically, they're this radio with updated firmware. But what these all have in common is who manufactures them. There's no branding. There's no manufacturer name on these radios. Some of them have this SPPLZ Co Limited or SZPLZ Co Limited. We've got that on the ATS 60 on the rear, and we've also got it on the rear of the ATS 80 SZPLZ. We've got no branding on the ATS 20. Okay, that's the standard 20 there, not the 20 plus. So there's no manufacturer name there. Let's have a look at the 20 plus. Again, it's the same, there's no manufacturer name. And the 25, again, no manufacturer name. Now, doesn't that make you a little bit suspicious? If you've got a good product, you're a manufacturer or you're a supplier or whatever, surely you'll want to brand these radios, okay, with your company branding. Nothing on these. I suspect these things are assembled from a kit of parts by various people, and that leads me on to the next reason not to buy these, and that's quality control. And quality control with these radios is very variable. Notably, the one really that started it all off, the ATS 20, they came fitted with a very poor quality encoder, and most people found that within a short time of using the ATS 20, the encoder would fail. And you'd either have to return the radio if you were lucky, and you had it from a decent supplier. You might get your money back, or you might get a replacement. Some people were able to replace the encoder themselves, but either way, these things didn't last very long. And I think that was one reason for the ATS 20 Plus, because these are equipped with a much better quality encoder that doesn't seem to have the same problems. There were also some people who had issues with these radios not booting up. I had an issue with my 20 of it wouldn't switch into single sideband mode, and that turned out to be a poorly soldered, abridged connection inside the radio. So quality control is an issue, continued to be an issue with the ATS 25. Personally, I didn't have any quality issues with my ATS 25 here, but some people had units that didn't boot up properly and so on. So quality control is an issue, but then again, we don't know who's manufacturing these things, so it's hardly a surprise. The third reason I wouldn't recommend these radios is the design. Now, I don't mean the aesthetic design, because a lot of people criticize the exposed screws on the front and so on, and all of the cases are pretty similar. The ATS 25 is just a bigger version of the ATS 20 case, and the most recent one that I've got is the ATS 80. And you know, you can see the design similarities. There are differences, but they all come in these kind of horizontal tabletop style cases with the exposed screws. That is, if you like that, that's fine. If you don't, you don't. That's not my design criticism. My design criticism is location of the controls. We've got a power on and off switch on the rear panel. That's not convenient. We've got a headphone jack on the rear panel. That's bad design. And with all of these radios, we have this FM AM switch. If you want to use band 2 FM, you have to flick the switch at the rear of the radio again. If you want to go back to AM, whether it be long wave, medium wave or short wave, you have to flick the switch here. Okay, that's bad design. You need those controls to be on the front of the radio. The headphone socket, the on-off switch should be on the front. And we shouldn't have to have this little micro switch here to go from band 2 to the AM bands. That's just bad design. So that's number 3. Okay, number 4, false claims. What do I mean by false claims? Take this ATS 80 here. There's a couple of things really about it that are false. The advertisement for it pitches it as a high sensitivity FM receiver. It does receive on FM. It's not high sensitivity. I've shown you this radio compared to the Schuh-Dawson DX286, which is far more sensitive on FM. The other false claim of this radio, you see on the rear panel, FM, AM, medium wave and short wave, and SSB. This radio doesn't receive SSB. There's no way of switching it into SSB. I think what they've done is they've reused a rear panel. The ATS 60 has exactly the same legends on it. This radio doesn't do SSB. It says SSB on the rear. That's a false claim. The ATS 60, which is also rather deaf to say the least, the false claim on the ATS 60, FM RDS stereo. This radio doesn't receive RDS data. Okay, it does receive FM stereo. It doesn't do RDS. It does do SSB, not very well, but it does do it, so that's not a false claim. But you cannot believe what these radios say, so this is a good example of it doesn't do what it says on the tin. No RDS on this one, no SSB on the ATS 80. Finally, my reason number 5, performance. These radios just don't perform very well. The ATS 25 has an issue with screen noise if you use it on a telescopic whip. It does have a nice pretty display, I'll give it that, but that's about it. I don't know how well a display will show up in the light here. Not too well actually, which is another issue, but that's for another day. But the performance overall of these radios is poor. The worst performer of the bunch is the ATS 60, which is very difficult to operate due to its one knob design, and it's also very deaf, certainly on the shortwave bands. The best of the bunch, if you like the most honest of these, is the ATS 20 Plus, which can now be picked up for around 20 UK pounds or so, and it's not too bad. It's a fun little radio for that. It does have a lot of shortcomings, but it does work. So you can get one of these for about £20 then. Probably price per performance is not too bad, but it still has the drawbacks that all the others have of the design with everything on the back here. But the ATS 20 Plus does do what it says on the tin. It does receive sideband. It does have RDS on FM out of the box, so to speak. So it's probably the best of the bunch, the most reasonable. The ATS 25, in all of its various models, it doesn't matter whether you've got a max decoder, super turbo, whatever. it's going to be the same poor performance receiver. So if you can get one of these for 30 or 40 UK pounds or equivalent, maybe that's not too bad. But I've seen some of the more modern, spiced up versions of this going for 70, 80, 90, 100 pounds, which is crazy, absolutely crazy for the performance, the poor performance that you get from these. So those are my reasons for not buying an ATS 20, 25, 60, 20 plus or 80. Be interested in your comments. Some people like these. Out of them all, my favourite, the ATS 20 plus. But honestly, these radios sit in a box under the bench because everything else that I've got in the shack performs better than these. Thank you for watching.